Clear blue water, take it home. Bring back them good old days I used to know. Must have been something in the water in that old sawmill creek. Baptized in the holler, I got down on my knees.
Morning guys, Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. Back out here on the lake again today in our On the Water's Edge series. What I thought we'd do today is I wanted to show you guys how to do jug lines. And basically you can use anything to float your line in any area of a lake. And what you do is you take something that will float. It doesn't matter if it's one of these pre-made floating devices that looks like a part of a pool noodle, and you can make them out of pool noodles. Pretty common man way to do it. But to be honest with you, this thing's got a metal rod all the way through it. It's got an end cap on it, and they only cost about $3.50. I'm not sure my time and energy would be worth $3.50 to try to cut a pool noodle up that costs $3 or $4 anyway to make a few of these. If I could buy them pre-made, maybe it would. But what you do with this, the premise of this thing is that you attach your line to one end, you put a weight on there to take your bait to the bottom, whatever that is, and you put a hook on there, and you let your bait float free on the bottom, and it's for catching things like catfish and possibly once in a while a turtle away from the bank, so you're not actually tied to anything on the bank. This is a free floating situation. And basically you just take these noodles. I use bank line with a clip so I can use it for either line sets or I can use it for jug sets. I'm sure there's a lot of people that know a lot more about it than I do. We're not going to have a lot of luck today, most likely, because we're doing it during the day, but I wanted to show you how to set these things up and how I do it. We're going to float along this lake and try to catch some bait instead of going and buying chicken livers or something like that. I think we're going to float around here with a lure and we're going to try to catch some bait, some small panfish. If we catch some small bluegill, we'll cut those up. We'll use a half a bluegill for bait on a catfish hook. And what I'm using for catfish hooks here is I'm using an assortment of what's called catfish hooks in a value pack. And then I've got a small weight that I'm just tying on to help drag that bait to the bottom. It's not necessarily something I want it to hold right there. I want it to drift a little bit. And I'll show you how I tie that on. And then I've got a set of trot line clips that I use to put on one end of my line. So again, I can use it for a set line on the bank, like a bank line set or a tree set, a limb set, or I can use it for a floating set. So I'm going to show you how to set those up. We're going to try to catch a couple fish here to put on there as we go. And we'll put a couple out. We'll leave them out for a couple, 3 hours. We'll see what happens. I don't expect a lot during the day, but at least it's an experience and a lesson on how to do it. And we're out here doing it, and we're having a good time. So stay with me. We'll get started right now. Well, this is the second fish we've caught this morning. First one was a bluegill. I threw him in the bucket. I was planning on using him for cut bait for some bank lines. I'm fishing a really shallow area right now. I really wasn't planning on catching any bass. We'll let that guy go so he can grow up some. I'm not going to use a bass for cut bait bank line. So we'll try to catch a few more panfish here for the task. Okay, so we're going to set up a couple of float lines here, and I've just got a couple of clips here that are really made for limb lining and things like that, and that's good because that'll give me the ability to unclip these from the buoy if I want to and actually use them for limb lines when I get ready to leave, because a float line or jug line in the state of Ohio has to be manned all the time. In other words, you have to be at least on the same body of water kind of watching what's going on with that set so they don't run off with it, but it's not supposed to be attached to anything. That's what makes it a jug line. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach to this float, and that's going to give us the ability to watch it and retrieve it. But because we got it clipped on, we'll also be able to use this for something else if we choose to. And I'm just going to run 40 or 50 feet of line off here, somewhere in that neighborhood, so that I can get some good depth out of it and cut it off. Now I'm going to take a small sinker and attach it to this line, and I can adjust where that's at. I'm really only looking for something to drag the bait to the bottom. I'm not really looking for something that's going to sit on the bottom, because this may not even go to the bottom depending on the depth of the water I drop it into, but at least this will carry the bait down, and I can adjust that as far as where I want that sinker, and it will become a slip, so that if it does get a good hard tug, it'll be free floating on the line anyway in the end. So I'll show you that too. Right now I'm just using a couple simple fisherman knots here, whatever you want to call these things. I'm not too much on names and knots, I just use them for what they're used for, and this is what I use for a fishing knot. I'm sure you can find this in any knot book on fishing. My granddaddy taught me this years and years ago. Works pretty good. I'll cut that excess tag off of there. Don't need that. Just like that. And now I'm pretty much ready to bait this thing and figure out where I want my sinker to be. So what I do with these things is I just take and I tie a knot in here a little bit up from where I'm going to put my bait, and it's just a simple slip that pulls straight out, but it keeps that sinker from being right on the bait. In case it is sitting on the bottom, the bait can float free until something grabs a hold of it. And then I'm going to put the back side of that panfish, that bluegill, on this hook, and like I said, I'm going to hook it straight into the meat, so you really got to take it to get a hold of it, just like that. And then I'll pull all this line back in the boat that I got floating behind it, and I'll take my canoe out to where I want to drop this, and we'll drop it and let it sit while I'm fishing for more panfish. You can set 6 of these float lines in Ohio on lakes less than 700 acres, and I've got 3 with me, but I've only got enough bait right now for the 2, because we caught the one bluegill early on that I didn't get on phone, and then we caught a small bass that I let go. So let's back up out here a little ways. There's a small channel out here that I'm going to use where I put the other one, coming out of a cove. And I'm just going to go not too far up from that one and put this one out. Okay, so this is where I'm going to put my second one. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing, just drop it down, release all my line off my float. It'll go to the bottom as it sits here. And then I'll put my float in the water and wait. Okay, there's another little panfish, but that whole thing right there make bait for one set on a bank line or on a float line. So that's good. That's what we're out here for. We're trying to increase our lot as far as our limb lines and bank lines without having to buy bait. Okay guys, well, we're getting ready to leave. So now what I want to do is I want to convert all of those float lines to bank lines, because I can leave bank lines overnight. Float lines have to be attended in Ohio. So now all I have to do is unclip them off my buoys. I've got one with that small bluegill that I didn't put on a buoy yet. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it to a tree right here with a clip. And in the state of Ohio, you have to also put your name and address on a limb line. And I use duct tape for that. Makes it pretty simple. So I'm going to go out to where this limb's sticking out of the water. I don't like to advertise these things so that everybody and their brother knows exactly where they're at. So I like to get something that's in the water, but still out of the water, so that I meet the regulation of the law, but I still have something that's semi-hidden from view. And I've got to get down here in the bottom of the boat to get this done. There we go. And I'll just attach that to this line, and I'll be good to go. Now I just wrapped it around that clip and it's clipped on. It can't go anywhere now. And now I'll just take a piece of duct tape, tag it, and then I'll float the canoe out a little ways, and I will drop it in the water and we'll be good to go. Get my name and address written on this here once I get it attached. And all you need is a simple flag. with your name and address on it. Works pretty good. Okay, let's drag this out and then we'll collect our other two, get them put on limbs. We'll come back and check them in the morning.